Hi guys, welcome to another episode. Today I'm going to show you how I price my products for retail and wholesale. I have two different ways of pricing, one for my handmade products and one for my factory made products. So I'll be showing you the formulas for both and then giving you some tips of what to take into consideration when you're pricing products. I'll put in the description below the link to where you can download the Excel file, and all you have to do is put in your email address and I'll send it right to your inbox. All right, let's get going. So the first thing you're gonna see is the base values page. First thing you need to think about is how much you wanna pay yourself. One of the most common problems people have is they forget to pay themselves. It doesn't matter if you're doing this part-time, full-time, your time is precious and you deserve to be paid. So input your minimum wage, your dream wage, whatever you feel comfortable with at the moment. There is no wrong answer and you can always change this later. So we'll be putting the hourly pay in this box right here. Next up is fees. Usually every website you're gonna be selling your product on is gonna charge you something for being on their website. And I just made this section so you're aware of what they're likely going to be charging you for that particular item, especially for if your margins are low, you wanna make sure you're not paying to sell. So the default values you see here right now are based on Faire and Etsy's fees, and depending on what site you're on, it may differ. All right, the next section is for you handmakers. Each row represents one product, and you'll need to fill out the white columns with your values, and the blue and green ones will populate automatically. So for example, this product here, let's do like EV plush, and it took me 3 hours to make, and the material cost was $3 and the packaging cost was 20 cents. As you can see, the cost, wholesale price, retail price, and all that has been calculated for you. That's the awesome part of this, it just auto calculates. So the formulas is actually pretty basic. It just multiplies your labor cost by the hours that you've worked. And the labor cost is just what we put already in the front page. It'll grab your material cost that you put in and the packaging cost that you put in and add it all together. Wholesale is usually double that cost. So pretty easy, $22.49 goes to $44.98. And it doubles again from wholesale to retail pricing. So another way of looking at it is the total cost times 4 gets you to this retail number. So if this number is already hard to look at, you may have to go back and revisit your labor costs. Remember, you can always change it. You can always play around with the numbers. It automatically readjusts for you whenever you input new numbers. For the people who find it hard to calculate their material costs, I made a material cost worksheet for you. So down here, you can click the material cost worksheet. And as you can see, I already showed you an example of one that I've done. I actually forgot to input a price. For example, when I make a toothless plushie, I have minky costs, embroidery stabilizer costs, and sometimes I put a keychain on it. So I'm gonna take all those into account. And the way I calculate it is how much minky did I buy? And how much of that minky did I use? So let's say I bought 1 yard for $12.90 and I only used 1/6 of that yard. So I'm only gonna be calculating that part of it. So it would be $2.15 for this particular character. Embroidery stabilizer, I bought it in packs of 200. I only used 1. So it will only be 8 cents for this one product. Same with the keychains, I bought it in a pack of 100. It cost $5 for the 100 keychains, and since I only use 1 out of it, it will be only 5 cents. And they'll total it down here for you, so $2.28, and then we go back to the handmade and we do $2.28. Perfect. And then you can do the same with the packaging costs. I have a packaging cost worksheet. Same concept, plastic bags, total cost, and how many you used out of how many you bought. So the pack of 200 was $14, and I only used 1 of the 200, so it was 7 cents. And And same with the business card. I put a business card in every single packaging. So it comes out to 17 cents. And you go back to the handmade worksheet and input the 17 cents. And that's how we get our number in total cost. So next we go to factory made items. We have another section for that down here. And as you see, I repopulated a few of my factory made items. It's very similar with a few distinct differences. One difference is how we talk about labor costs. Usually we only need to do this once when we design the art or file. So you can choose to include that here if you want, which is why I labeled it optional. Honestly, I sometimes don't include it because I know the setup fee is going to be relatively low and it's going to be distributed across all the products I made from that art file. So it ends up being almost negligible depending on how you're using the art file. I reuse my art file a lot, so this one art file may be used across multiple projects, across hundreds of different products. So it's hard for me to actually include that into any specific product. But if you're making something like calendars or limited run products, I highly recommend you put this hours worked column in. So as you see, the foodie tee is actually made from a reused art file, so I didn't put work hours worked here at all. The other difference you might be noticing is I like to calculate per order. So what this means is first run of the product, second run of the product is listed here. Sometimes you'll find the pricing is going to be different between different orders or different runs because of the way the factory prices. That could mean that your second run you're not paying setup fees, or it can mean you got into a lower price back at the second run, or you're charged setup fees, mold fees, or you included labor costs like I was mentioning in the first one. Your first one usually is going to be the most expensive because you're likely going to do a smaller run the first time because you're trying something out and you're going to have to pay those setup fees. So if you want, you can always base your pricing off the first run. I like to put every run in here just so I know how the price is fluctuating across each runs, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just run the numbers once and then that's it. An example is one of my greeting cards. I decided to put hours work because this is a holiday card and I might not be using it again in the future. And so the production price that the factory quoted me is $9.12 for 1,900 cards. This section will be auto-populated for you based off these two numbers. This number is basically labor cost plus production cost divided by the amount ordered. So this is the production cost for one card. And then you'll do the packaging costs here. And if you need help with packaging costs, you can always go back to the packaging cost worksheet and put in your number here. And then it'll spit out the total cost. And the total cost is calculated in similar fashion. It is the packaging cost plus your production cost. And that will be calculated automatically for you. You don't have to worry about that. You just have to put in your hours worked. Let's say I'm doing a new product. The new product is lanyards. It took me an hour to set up the file. Maybe they quoted me $200 for 200 lanyards. So that would be $1.05 because of labor costs for one lanyard. And packaging costs for one lanyard may be 15 cents. So my total cost is $1.20. My recommended minimum wholesale price is $2.40 and the retail price is $4.80. So what do all these numbers mean? Let's go over that. So $4.80 was what my program told me the minimum retail price should be. This is the minimum you need to charge for it. So $5 plus is probably what is recommended for retail. Overall, the goal is to hit our minimums. The minimums means what this program is spitting out for us. So for greeting cards, our minimums that we want to hit is 241. Anything above 241 is amazing. You're doing great. That's a great price for your product. Anything under, don't worry, we're going to have a chat about things that fall under your retail price, meaning people are not willing to pay you the price that you should be paid for your product. Now, as you guys know, I charge $10 for lanyards. And the reason I do that is because I know the market value of lanyards. So what does market value mean? You hear it all the time. What does it actually mean? So market value is what your consumer or the person walking down the street is willing to pay for your lanyard, usually in a specific given location. So there's also a concept similarly of industry standard price. So what industry standard price means that it's usually an agreed upon, often used, safe to charge price for this particular product. The most classic example I can think of is greeting cards. Usually this only happens when the product has been in the market for a while and there's an industry built around it and there's just standards that the industry has developed over the years. So greeting cards, unless you're doing something crazy like pop-ups or giving a gift in addition to your greeting card, is probably gonna retail at $4.50 to $5 and it's gonna wholesale for half of that. So $2.25 to $2.50. That's just industry standard. It doesn't really matter what your production cost is, what your packaging cost is. That's just what almost 90% of retailers are going to charge you. And if you lowball or go higher, you're either not going to sell or you're going to get people really mad at you, which happens because you're basically destroying the standard that the industry has already set and has established as appropriate. So don't do that. But first, let's talk a little bit more about industry standards. How do we find industry standards? There's no magical list out there telling you how to charge things. The best way to find them is to go on whatever platform you're on and search for similar products as you. For example, if I'm selling on Etsy, I'm gonna go on Etsy and look up holiday greeting cards. If I want to be specific and I have a dog on the card, I might go holiday dog greeting cards. This is gonna hit a lot of companies that are selling similar products at me, and I get a wide variety, maybe a range of what they are charging, and as a result, what I should be charging. This doesn't mean that you should be charging exactly what someone else is charging. You want to get almost like 5 to 10 other people to get a range, and you should decide yourself where in the range you want to fall based off how much time you spent on it, how much you think it's worth, how much you personally feel comfortable charging. Also keep in mind that it does not mean every single listing should be treated equally. So if a listing has a price and has 0 sales, that's probably not a good listing to base things off. So if a listing has a lot of sales, there's a reason they have a lot of sales. Likely people are willing to pay that money for that type of product. So another thing that comes up is, what if I can't find my product in this marketplace? That actually happens, and it could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a good thing because you might be the first one who has this product. In that case, this worksheet is great because this is what you should be charging if you really can't find anything on pricing for your product. That's the minimum to make good margins. You can always charge above that, as I mentioned, but it's a good basis to start from. The bad news might be you're not on the right platform for your product. So this happens sometimes. This means you might have to go to Google, go away from the platform you're on, and search other platforms. So for example, if I'm on Etsy and I'm not seeing my product on Etsy, maybe it's gonna be on Amazon. Maybe it's gonna be on eBay. Maybe it's going to be on like a totally different site. And at that point, you should look on those sites to see if your product's over there so you can get some price references. Next is the hardest thing I'm going to talk about with you. What if my prices are too high for what the market is willing to pay me for? This is very common for people who are hand making and want to get paid good money for their time, or people who have really low orders for factory made items, because usually when you get factory made items, the higher the amount you order, the lower the cost per item is. So one example I have for you that I've already put in here is my handmade plush shoes. As you can see, the cost is so high if I want to get paid properly, right? Who is going to pay $90 for a 3-inch plush shoes? Maybe 1 or 2 people in the world, but I'm not going to be moving this product very quickly at all. So I need to make some very difficult decisions. One thing you have to ask yourself is, are you going to wholesale this product? If you're not considering wholesale for this product, you have a lot more wiggle room. In this case, toothless I charge $40 for. Sometimes I go to $45 depending on how fast I want to move the product. I can just use wholesale price for it. So that's kind of what I did for products that are just way above normal. So that's kind of what we consider when we talk about a product being appropriate for wholesale. It has to hit the ×4 to retail margin. But if it doesn't, you can just sell it for retail. It's no big deal if that's also part of your business. You just have to keep in mind that it's not going to be a good wholesale item just because you're not making enough off of it. And I have plenty of products that I do that for, so it's not abnormal and there's nothing wrong with that. The other option is to not do the product at all. And sometimes it's hard to hear, but if your margins are not good, you're gonna be spending way too much time and effort working on this product. It's just not gonna give you a lot of money for your time spent. Good. One great example are notebooks. I cannot hit the ×4 to retail minimum that I want for my hardcover notebooks just because shipping is so expensive from overseas. So I just opted to not really do them anymore. I did one run of it, just test it out, and I'm removing them from my categories. So let me tell you of one unique example where one of my products is not hitting the standard minimums, but I'm still sourcing it and selling it as though it is. And the product is my graphic tees. And for those who know my business, I sell a lot of graphic tees. But let me show you on my little map here. It's not hitting my minimums at all. So what I would want for a minimum is I sell them for $26, which I don't, and I wholesale them for $18, which I also don't. I actually sell my shirts for $25 and I wholesale them for $12.50. So this is outrageously low for this, but I decided I was okay with that because if you see what this ends up being, I make $3 off of wholesale, which was actually fine with me because I don't wholesale t-shirts that often. And if I do, it's such a great advertising piece for me. People wear it around, people ask about it. It's just worth it for me to do it because I also see marketing value in it. And retail income is $15.80, which is still great. Like if I'm making $50 off one shirt at a show, that's amazing. And most of my income from t-shirts are from retail. So I was actually totally okay with that. As long as it's not cutting into my costs any, that's fine. The only downside is once you start looking at site fees, it's gonna be a little cringy. So for example, my wholesale site fee goes up to $3.13. This means I'm only making 27 cents off of shirts if everybody gets their cut. And that's totally not worth it. But my main shirt buyers are actually retailers that buy from me directly. So I don't usually pay the site fee, but it's just good to look at. So ideally, I'm gonna have to figure out some way to lower my production costs, which I'm already looking into based off like what shirts I'm using. You can cut costs there. You can do larger orders, which I've also moved into, and you can start looking into like different companies. If your company is the company that you're using is not hitting your minimums, that's when you start looking for other companies to quote better prices maybe. There's a lot of ways to cut back on product costs, and it just depends on what your value and what your company values are. So I hope that helped. I know it's a lot of information, but I wanted to make sure you have all of it so you can make the best decisions you can for your particular situation and your particular company. As always, feel free to follow, feel free to email me, reach out on Discord, or follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/EmiiCreations. I welcome you. We're all part of the same struggle. We're all trying to make it in this difficult and growing in difficulty retail world. So I hope we can support each other as much as possible. And I'm so excited you're here and you made it all the way through. And thank you so much for watching. I will have another one hopefully for you next week, and we can talk a little bit more about pricing and the struggles of it.